Greetings humans, my name is Slady and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be taking a quick look at Deadpool v Gambit, the V is for verses, and as someone that would like to make comics in some sort later in life, dissect what went wrong with the story arc in this comic and why. I'm not an avid comic book reader and I've mostly stuck to collections focused on my favorite characters, aka Deadpool, because I'm a basic bitch, and sadly this collection just did not live up to my expectations. Deadpool v Gambit, or I'm going to start calling it DVG, was made by Ben Acker, but to date I've only read most of the larger Deadpool collections by Daniel Way. I don't typically read a book's metadata until I've finished it, and my impression of DVG had me thinking that it was old. Like, quite old. Made in my childhood old. But apparently it was released in 2016. This assumption was based on the art style and the writing. The art, which many complained about, I generally didn't have a problem with. It had its aesthetic and it stuck with it, and as much as I didn't mind the art itself, the panels in some parts of the magazine were oddly placed. I had a hard time following a couple of the speech bubbles. I'm not the smartest comic book reader, but here are some examples. I don't know how I'm actually gonna, pull this up. Let's just pretend that I put the image right here, and if I look really stupid, I'll just full screen it. Deal? Deal. So, here we have a fairly simple conversation, but the fact that, first of all, I'm drawn to the yellow text of Deadpool over anything else, being here, I think I'm doing this right, being here and farthest to the left completely drew my eye to it, so that's where my eye wants to start, even though I know that you're supposed to start top left to bottom right. So despite this bubble by Fat Man being higher up, it is so much to the right that it is not the first thing that I decide to read, because it's supposed to go top, left, to right. My brain, and presumably some other comic book readers, are going to go farthest left to right, regardless of the height of any of the bubbles. Another sort of weird example that I have is this. There are actually quite a few fight scenes throughout this collection that are paneled in ways to show off, like this one's Thirsty Monk's Rage Toss, and then the variety of different kinds of fighting styles that there are. But as you can see, this is a 2-page panel splash, so what you're supposed to do is go from the farthest left, but go all the way to the right for the top half, and then move down to the bottom left, and then finish. The fact that this is all red, and there's a crease, and the bit that is left between the crease and the upper right panel is just generic, and you're not really paying attention to it. My brain didn't go left to right, left to right. My brain went left page down, because it didn't register that that tiny bit of the first half had extended over the margin. And that did make sense, because halfway through the narrative, after finishing the whole left page, I went up to the right side, and I was like, oh, shit, now the fight's cut in half. Mind you, these things could just be because, I'm a terrible comic book reader and I'm stupid, but I feel like the tiny tweaks in placement for these kinds of things would make it a lot easier for a casual reader to understand and follow the comic properly. Art flow aside, my greatest disappointment was the plot of the collection. It was a mess, and I'm glad when I finished it and I was miffed that I wasn't the only one, and I found solace in other Goodread reviewers. The comic either got 5 stars from mindless fans who were just like, something Deadpool, therefore it's the best thing ever, and the rest of the reviews were 2 or less from anyone looking for quality and comic book standards. Making a comic book takes a lot of effort and planning, but on a standard level, DVG was convoluted and confusing. Deadpool and Gambit have the same goal throughout the story. They want to get money and they work together. Yes, the V doesn't actually stand for verses, and a lot of people didn't like that false advertising. But as with collections, it is several smaller issues released in an adventure arc, and at the end of each one, there is a twist. The twist in this case is more like a subplot reveal, which is fine if you're not doing it constantly, and when it gets revealed, I'm sitting there going, okay, I don't know why that matters though. Here's the plot of the comic as literally as I can explain it. Please stay with me. Spoiler alerts, obviously. If you plan on picking this up, which I don't recommend, go pick up the Daniel Way ones. Don't finish watching this. So the premise is that Wade and Gambit are hired. So the premise is that Wade, aka Deadpool, and Gambit are hired to steal a relic from a businessman by a sleazy employer. For some reason, there's a flashback to them previously helping their employer sell land to a villain named the Scrambler. That will become relevant later. we guess. They take the businessman out for drinks and try to distract him so they can steal the relic. But apparently he's not who he seems. He's actually an ancient badass fighter from Kunlun that protects the relic with his ninja associates. Wade finds this out, but manages to steal the relic with a hologram deception and get it to his employer, who pulls some sympathy story about dying and needing the relic. Suddenly, the ninja boss shows up, the employer runs off with the relic, and Wade is left to get his ass kicked while Gambit fucks the ninja associates. But for some reason, Deadpool's not healing like he usually does, and Gambit's power goes off while he's busy cuddling the ninjas, so they're pissed that their powers are weirding out. The employer is off God knows where. The ninja boss is on a mission to get his relic back. Gambit and Deadpool come to the conclusion their powers are acting up because of the Scrambler, who at the start supposedly bought land from their employer. The Scrambler is a mess of fucking logic. He's introduced as such. He was a villain that lost his hands in a battle with the X-Men and decided to start a new, clean life when he got out of the hospital. He fell in love with a single mom and started an auto shop business. After being reformed, a couple villains that were part of his squad before the incident come by and try threatening him into getting into the business with them again. Scrambler says, "No, I'm good now," and literally kicks their asses out of his shop. They come at him a second time with the same proposition, and the Scrambler turns them into the police after kicking their ass. Somewhere in this timeline, he bought the land, and after turning down his villain friends twice and imprisoning them, he sees Deadpool on the streets and is suddenly overcome with vengeance. He drops everything. Just fuck the woman I love so very much. Fuck my business I've protected fervently. I need revenge because they tricked me into buying some useless bit of land, and his logic is to break the villains that he put in jail out and then get vengeance. He scrambled Wade and Gambit's powers, and when they find him in real time, he's chilling with those villains like they're really all friends again at a barbecue, and the Scrambler is considering, I renounced my life as a good guy, but now I've got no purpose. Maybe I should go back to my girlfriend again. This is the point where I kind of lost my shit reading this, because I was like, what? We still don't know how the land actually ties in. The Scrambler can't make up his mind on anything. We didn't need all of that messy backstory on him to understand anything that's currently happening. So I'm not even going to do the weird leaps in plot that happen from this point forward. Basically, the ninja boss shows up and gives Deadpool Kunlun power to take down his employer because he's on everyone's shit list. But the employer is actually Loki, and everything happened just because the World Tree was on that plot of land, I guess. But the weird thing is that he sold that plot of land to the Scrambler in the first place and then wanted to buy it back from him for a ridiculously high price. Why would he do that? Why wouldn't the Scrambler just take the offer if he's so upset about being in debt? How does he really even know that Deadpool and Gambit were associated with the land deal because they were in the background keeping the gators out of view, so he wouldn't think it was such a piece of shit land? I could explain the Scrambler's arc mostly, but it hit a certain point where everything was just reveal after reveal, and you have no investment in the outcome, so it's inconsequential regardless. At one point, the Scrambler is talking to his lawyer about the land, and she's normal. Then, literally on the last page, she's wheeling him to set land, like it's a happy ending. And oh yeah, I guess she's She-Hulk because she's just green now? No explanation. Superheroes in comics are allowed to have flawed reasoning and strange plots, but there needs to be some easy-to-follow route from point A to point B. It felt like DVG wanted to shock us with so many twists and underlying reasons why things happened that it didn't make sense anymore. At the end, Deadpool literally says a line like, "Don't worry about the logistics, Loki was involved, so it's allowed to not make any sense." I'm paraphrasing. And especially when you give characters motivations, you need to have a base to set them up as believable. Not only was the Scrambler's insertion not necessary, he overwrote his personality several times within a couple pages. It's believable he left his past behind for a simpler life because he asserts his commitment to his girlfriend twice by refusing villains' offers. It is not believable that the second he sees Deadpool, he gets triggered by a land deal he made and throws all that commitment away, and breaks those exact villains out of jail, resulting in a barbecue. It's fucking weird. And even after all that, he's just like, I don't know if I can still go back to her. I've decided that I'm a villain. I just am. I have to be one thing or the other. There's no gray area. There's no... We're at a point in society where we understand the difference between good children's literature and adult literature. Comics can be argued as a middle ground, but as we've seen with movies, we've set a standard where if it's a good kid film, it's still, on principle, enjoyable to adults, even if that's just in its simplicity. This comic is a write-off that fails at both areas. If you argued that DVG was for kids so it doesn't need to make sense, then it fails in its tone and humor that kids just won't get. If you argue that DVG was for adults, it's too convoluted to enjoy despite the small bits of humor. I will admit, though, that this made me snort. Asgardians show up to stop Loki at the end of the comic, which I didn't mention because it's inconsequential, but Loki kicks the world tree and then this happens. Didn't he just? He didn't, not even. Verily, he even didst. That's just kind of funny. So, as I said already, I gave Deadpool v Gambit, the V is for Versus, 1 star. I liked the intro, there were some jokes, but everything else was too hard to follow and I did not enjoy myself. Please don't feel like because something is your favorite character or writer that you can't be critical of it. If you liked this comic, maybe go read some other Deadpool comics and realize what a jumble of shit this is, comparatively. This was Slady, being critical. If you've run across this sort of thing, comment below and let me know. With companies like Marvel, not everything is done by the same person, like per hero. You'd think you'd have one person supervising over that, so there will be a lot of different levels of fluency and professionalism. I just didn't expect to be dumbstruck by this one from 2016. If you enjoy my content, like and subscribe. Look forward to more comic book dissections and eventually manga reviews. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Did this just do that? No, he didn't.